One of the greatest challenges we are confronting as a country is the theft of public resources by those given the responsibility to manage those resources and also to safeguard them. Those we have appointed as stewards of those resources. A priority at this moment is to address the concern that has been raised by our people about the involvement of political office bearers and public servants in the unlawful awarding of tenders and contracts to relatives and acquaintances. While most public servants are dedicated, diligent, and law-abiding, we nevertheless find that such practices are found in all spheres of government and in many public entities. State capture is the form of corruption on a grand scale, where criminal networks are used to control public entities, to unlawfully enrich private individuals and companies. This corruption took place alongside a deliberate effort to weaken and disable the country's law enforcement capabilities. Therefore, a critical part of our efforts to root out all corruption, both in the public and private sectors, has been to rebuild our law enforcement agencies, to restore their integrity and credibility, and provide them with the means to act against corruption. I spoke about this at length earlier. Over the last 2 years, we've made significant progress in this regard. In strengthening institutions like the NPA, the Hawks, SARS, the SIU, and others, so that they are able to detect, investigate, and prosecute all acts of corruption. At the same time, we have worked to strengthen the measures inside government to minimize potential for corrupt activities. In 2016, government reviewed the Code of Conduct for Public Service Employees to, amongst other things, prohibit public service workers from conducting business with the state, be it in a personal capacity or as a director in a company that conducts business with the state. In 2019, I extended this provision to the whole of the public administration when Section 8 of the Public Administration Management Act was brought into effect by means of a proclamation. This criminalized the act of public administration employees conducting business with the state. To ensure action against those who transgress these laws, systems have to be put in place through the Personnel Salary System, the PERSAL as we call it, and the Central Supplier Database to identify public servants who tender for contracts with the state. In the last month, the ministers of the Public Service and Administration, of Police and of Justice and Correctional Services have drafted a memorandum of understanding to better coordinate efforts that will lead to the investigation and the prosecution of those employees who were found to be conducting business with the state. While all wrongdoers must face the full might of the law, our priority is to ensure that corruption does not occur in the first place. We are therefore strengthening financial, human resource, and other management systems to reduce the risk of unlawful conduct by any person in the public service. And this we're doing so that those who are employed, as the question sort of started addressing, who are employed by the state, should know that it is essentially a conflict of interest that while you work for the state, to do business with the same state. And this often happens also in departments, where people seek to do business with the state, knowing very well what the contract arrangements and movements are all about, and then they start doing business with the state. It is wrong. It is wrong because it deprives those who are genuine business operators from either tendering or participating in a pure vanilla, if you like, type of business opportunity with the state. So it is conflictual, and this is what we are seeking to stop. And we want to prevent it before it happens, so that we do not have to embark on criminal justice mechanisms to get people investigated and finally arrested. And we believe, Honorable Speaker, that this is the best way of strengthening the capacity of the state. This is the best way of enhancing its capacity to be able to purely serve the people of our country rather than to serve the interests of just a few. Because doing business with the state is precisely that. You are an insider, and therefore business is then done with you, and it is unfair to everyone else. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Honorable Somio.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable President, for answering that question. It indeed brings life into the fact that you, as part of the broad movement, the African National Congress, you are committed, both in words and deeds, to outroot corruption as it finds way into individuals, both in the organization and in government, who have plundered the state's resources and have brought our hard-fought democracy to a point of humiliating disgrace. You have spoken largely on the part of revamping the procurement system, something which has shown its own way, hardly that those who are comfortable with corruption find their way through that system. In doing so, Mr. President, are you ready to share with us the core elements of that supply chain management revamp as the guarantee to deepen and instill the ethical conduct of those who work with government, and as well to the people in enforcing trust in the public sector? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Somio. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much, Honorable Somio. And indeed, the determination and the commitment is there. And it is all based on doing the right thing. And one works on the basis that we are all committed to doing the right thing, and if we are committed to doing that, let's do it properly, and let's not try to cut corners or to defraud the system. Now, clearly, we've got to have a number of elements, and one of the key elements is adherence to proper values, to proper principles, that they should be put out there and that should be enshrined in the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct, in the main, deals with the values and the principles that we would like our civil servants to adhere to. Once they adhere to that Code of Conduct, then I believe that we've done half the work. But the other one is to make sure that we take preventative measures. The preventative measures must then be to set out the rules that this is what we would like everyone to comply with. comply with the certain rules, and we are now going to move towards inserting in those rules things such as lifestyle audits, so that they act as a preventative measure, so that everyone who works at a particular level in government should know that we will want to know precisely where, if they have wealth, where it comes from, whether they are living beyond their means, and whether they are susceptible to any form of outside influence or paying heed to certain interests outside. And when we have done that, we will then put in place a number of other measures. Some will be preventative, some will actually, in the end, be punitive measures that will deal very severely with those who transgress those rules. And we hope and work from the basis that most, if not all, civil servants are civil servants who are committed to serving our people well, who are committed to Batupili type of philosophy and principles. And if they are, then they have nothing to worry about. There are, however, those few who will want to buck the system, those few who will want to be fraudulent. And the other measures that we will put, the punitive measures we will put in place, are meant to deal precisely with those that are going to try and transgress the system. I am a true believer in the belief that our people who are in the civil service, in the main, want to serve our people, and we want to strengthen their hand, even as we get them to sign the code of conduct and behave in a particular way. They should be willing and able to do so with a great deal of commitment, because that code of conduct then enshrines all the good principles that we want everyone to adhere to. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.